Hey guys, it's Bailey King from King Therapies. In 2020, one of our goals was to provide better parent education. And so Sam is about to tell you what that's going to look like. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out and enjoy.
Hey there, I'm Sam Romano. I'm an RBT at King Therapies. I've been working with Bailey for just over a year now. So some of you might have seen me in New Albany and Grenada working with some of your kids. But if I haven't met you just yet, I'm sure that I will as we move through this new program. Before we get started, this is our first video in our new parent training program. We are so excited to get started with this with you guys, but before I move into our first topic, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what parent training is and why we're doing it, and we're asking that you guys participate in this and that it be a required part of your child's therapy. So the whole point of this training is to build a foundation of behavior knowledge between you and your children, so that when we're discussing behavioral assessment and behavioral change that we're doing in the therapy room or things that you can start implementing at home, you'll have a better understanding of what we're saying and how to take it home. And you'll be able to ask more questions that'll make implementing these things at home a lot easier for you guys. That's really the biggest goal of this whole thing, is we want this to be a good resource for you, so that if you have a question about anything, you can reach out. And so every month we're gonna send out an email with a video kind of like this, but with less of an awkward introduction at the beginning and more just behavior info. You're gonna get an informational packet, and there's gonna be a pre-quiz. So we're going to ask that everyone take this pre-quiz before looking at the packet or the video, so that we can kind of get a gauge of where you guys are at with what we know, what you know of the topic that we're starting with for the month. And then we're also going to take a post-quiz at the end of the month. So we're going to see if this how well this behavior training program is working, and if we're getting the knowledge, if we're getting this information to you in a beneficial way, if it's helping, and things that we need to change. So that's what's going to happen every month. There's also going to be an optional but highly suggested group informational session, where there's going to be an RBGT present, sometimes me, sometimes somebody else, to answer any questions that you have regarding this topic. Going over examples. I can pull up videos for specific questions, and I think it'll be super beneficial to hear other parents' questions about the topic, because you might hear something that you haven't thought about yet, so there's going to be also that every month. That's going to be optional, but I am going to be wanting to hear from all of you guys about how it's going with the new topic for the month, and things like that. So we're really excited. We're really excited about that. But why do we want this to be a part of your child's therapy? We really just want you guys to feel confident in handling different situations in different environments with your child. We want to give you and your child every single opportunity to have the highest quality of life, and to have meaningful, functional communication. And we do all of this stuff because ABA is a great science, and it is really, truly going to change the world. It has been used with multiple populations to change behavior, to make phenomenal things happen, and it's going to change the world. And so that's why we're doing all this. So I'm going to get right into our first topic, and that's just the ABCs of behavior. So it's just the basics. And so some just general info to start, and things that you're going to probably hear us say quite often when we talk to you. Behavioral assessments. Every single child we see at the clinic goes through this. And this is just looking at some behaviors that we determined to be socially significant. So like going to the restroom, reading letters, writing letters, saying letter sounds, playing, all that kind of stuff goes into that. we look at all of that, and we sit with your child. We basically play, and we ask your child, say "ah," and we just see if they can or not. And if they can, then that goes on a list of things that we can build on later that we already know how to do. And if they have a little bit of issues with that behavior, then we can put that on things we need to work on and things that we can build on for later. So that's what that behavioral assessment is. And the goal there is to improve that quality of life and increase independence and autonomy. We want you and your kids to feel confident day to day. And so the behavioral assessment just gives us a snapshot of where we're at. Target behaviors, this is just going to be the behavior that we're talking about in a specific instance. Behavioral repertoire, this is all the things that your kid is capable of doing at any given moment. So when we're talking about someone's behavioral repertoire for the restroom, that's all the behaviors they're capable of doing in the restroom. So can they pull their pants down by themselves? Can they sit on the toilet? Can they flush the toilet? Can they wash their hands? Can they shut the light off? And so on and so forth. So it's just all those behaviors that are packed under that big behavior, the behavioral repertoire. And then baseline, this is basically just what the behavior looks like without any intervention. So before we even do anything, we're just going to look at the behavior and see what it's doing, how frequent, how much of this behavior are we seeing. And then just generally, when we're talking about behavior change, we're talking about changing a behavior problem of too much or too little of a behavior. So if we've got a kid that doesn't have very many words, that's obviously a behavior problem of having too little of a behavior. If we've got a kid that doesn't know how to use an inside voice, that's obviously a behavior problem with too much of behavior. So when we talk about behavior, we're talking about quantities of the behavior. We say ABA a lot, but I don't ever feel like we explain it very well. So what exactly is applied behavior analysis anyway? It's really just the science of behavior change. We look at the behavior and the environment and how they're interacting with each other, and we attempt to solve behavior problems by changing the environment. So in the therapy room, this is mainly by providing reinforcement for desired behaviors and designing moments for planned ignoring to change behavior. We're going to talk about reinforcement and planned ignoring later, but it's basically we're just changing the environment to change behavior. And there's a cool science behind it, and it works, so it's pretty awesome. But what exactly do we mean when we're talking about behavior? And this is just the thing that the person is doing. It's measurable, it's observable, it's quantifiable, and it's socially significant. So the biggest piece of that to me is the observable part. We have to be able to see behavior for us to really, obviously, for us to be able to look at it. All behaviors are learned and maintained by the people around us and our environment. So if a kid is picking something, if anyone has picked something up, it's because they've learned it in some way. And all of these behaviors are functional. There's a reason behind the behavior. And that's the most important takeaway probably out of every single thing I'll say to you throughout parent training. Behavior is functional. When things are stressful and you don't know why or how things are happening, always, always, always remember that there's a reason why the behavior is occurring. And if we can figure out that reason, we can talk, and which we'll talk a lot more about later, we can figure out how to change that behavior. Every behavior has an antecedent, so what's happening before the behavior, this is the setting, this is individual factors that have happened throughout the day, the behavior itself, and then the consequence. So what happens in the environment after the behavior. And this is the consequence is something that is added or is removed that alters the likelihood of the behavior happening in the future. So, in a therapy room, what this might look like is the RBT is switching between tasks at the table. The child gets out of their seat and goes to play with toys, so the RBT removes the access to toys until the child comes back to the table and return to their chair. The future occurrence of the behavior, so the future occurrence of the child getting out of their seat to go play with toys between tasks goes down because that access to the toys was removed when they got up from their chair. Example would be you're at the store and you're in the checkout line and you're trying to get home because you worked all day and you got dinner to make. But your child really wants some candy and you told them, no, we're not going to have candy before dinner. So they throw a tantrum, and it's a big tantrum, and they're screaming and they're crying and they're kicking and stomping their feet. So we give in and we give them the candy. But the future occurrence of your child throwing a tantrum in the store when you tell them no is going to go up, because the last time they threw a tantrum when you told them no, you gave them the candy. And we'll talk more about how to fix those kinds of behavior problems, but that's just an example of how the antecedent behavior consequence kind of looks. And then, so when we're looking at behavior, behaviorists usually define behavior in a super weird way. We call it an operational definition. And this is basically just a very super specific definition, so that any person who looks at our behavior plan will know exactly what we mean. Because everyone's going to look at behavior a different way. So, for example, think about cleaning your room. Just for a second, think about when you tell your child to clean your room, what do you mean? I'm sure that my definition for a clean room is much different than your definition of a clean room. For example, my grandmother, when she meant a clean room, bed completely made, all the clothes up off the floor. She wanted the corners of the room dusted. She wanted the baseboards wiped down. She wanted everything in your room dusted. All the drawers fixed. When I say clean my room, I mean clothes off the floor, my bed is made, it's vacuumed, and I usually just call it good at that. So that's just an example of how, if you don't have a super specific operational definition, if we're not super specific and we say, when I say clean room, I mean pick up your socks, pick up your shoes, make your bed, and you're done, someone's going to look at that behavior a little bit differently. So that's just why we want to be as specific as possible when we think about behavior. And these operational definitions also really need to be super objective. We're never going to talk about he was feeling angry or he was tired or things like that. It's going to be only what we can see. So if we think he's angry, let's unpack that. What was he doing? Well, he slammed his fist on the table, he screamed, he pulled his hair, and he kicked me. That's what I mean by that. That is a picture of what's happening. He's angry is not a good picture. So that's why we need definitions of behavior to be super objective. And then we need them to be measurable. How loud, how long, how hard, how many. And then the dead man's rule is just, it's the easiest way to think about how we want to look at behavior. We're not going to describe a behavior using not. We're not going to say she was not moving. Okay, well, what was she doing instead? Was she sitting like this not moving, or was she sitting like this not moving? There's so many pictures of not moving. We need to get as specific as possible, and that's why when you think about the dead man's test, if a dead man can do it, it's not a good definition of behavior. A dead man's really good at not moving. I hope all that made sense. If it doesn't, please feel free to shoot me an email, shoot me a text. I am here for you. Let me know anything you need. I hope I can see you guys soon.